Hey, it's Jake Goslin with Churchfront. In this video, I'm going to be covering the worship tech guide for lead pastors, how to fix amateur production quality without spending multiple five figures on gear or hiring full-time staff. This video is for you if you're a lead pastor, an executive pastor, maybe a church planter, someone who is in charge of running the organization at a local church. I know you're a busy leader, you're prepping sermons for Sunday, you're engaging in pastoral care, and then you're also probably managing some sort of staff. So you have to lead meetings and you have to make sure the organization runs smoothly. So your time is precious. That's why in just a few minutes, I want to help you diagnose what's holding your worship tech ministry back. And then I'm going to give you a simple action plan to resolve these issues within just a few weeks. I know you didn't sign up to be a pastor so that you had to go and master the latest tools for audio, video, and live streaming. But that's the reality of the world we live in today. Our congregants are engaging with our churches online, or potential new congregants from our community are checking out our church for the first time online. And then when they're in person, they expect to be able to hear and see the message and the mission you are trying to communicate clearly. But you run into problems like the quality of your audio mix is poor or inconsistent. The live stream looks amateur. Team members who are running all of this equipment on Sunday are incompetent. You have constant headaches every single week. You want to be able to focus on preaching, shepherding, and reaching more people with the gospel of Jesus, not stressing about tech. If any of these things describe your situation, you're in the right place. I'm gonna unpack for you 5 steps to fixing amateur production quality for both in-person and online worship experiences. If we haven't met yet, my name is Jake Goslin. I'm the creator of Churchfront, an online media and education platform specifically created for the local church worship ministry. I've been serving in small to mid-sized church worship ministries since 2007, both as a volunteer and as full-time staff. I got my bachelor's of arts in music and religion from Greenville University, and I got my MDiv from Denver Seminary in 2016. And in that same year, that's when I started Churchfront. I saw a huge need for practical training for worship ministry leaders because I myself learned a lot of things the hard and slow way. So I created a YouTube channel, a podcast, and a blog. I faithfully created content for the past 6 years, and that evolved into a full-on education and media platform, as I said, for worship leaders, tech directors, and pastors wanting to lead gospel-centered and tech-savvy worship. Churchfront has 5 full-time team members, but thanks to the help of the internet and automation and technology these days, we can serve tens of thousands of churches every single month. So that's me and a little bit of context of where I'm coming from. I've been in the trenches in many different worship ministries, whether they were my own that I'm currently serving in or other worship ministries that we worked closely with around the nation. Let's dive into the 5 steps to fixing amateur production quality for both in-person and online worship gatherings. Step 1 is audio. You have to get audio right. That is the absolute foundation of worship tech. Here are the common pitfalls for audio. The in-person mix sounds muddy, or it's too loud, it's too quiet, it's harsh, it's inconsistent. You could probably come up with lots of adjectives there. The live stream mix, it also sounds unclear, muddy, too loud, too quiet, harsh, inconsistent. And there's a very good chance, I've seen this a lot, where you and your congregation have acclimated to just really poor mixes and you don't even know what you're missing out on. I see this all the time when I come into a church that has all the right gear, but they're missing the right knowledge and strategy to make the most of that sound gear. And then we implement our mixing strategy and they're blown away by how much better it sounds. So the problem here is that people are not hearing the message as clearly as they should. People are not participating in worship perhaps because they don't feel like they're supported by the sound system. And yes, if you mix sound more effectively, that's going to support more congregational engagement in worship. And then you get the non-stop complaints. The mix is too loud for some people, or it's too quiet for some people. You don't really hear all the musicians on stage. Maybe some of them you don't want to hear. But the complaints never end. So let's talk about the most important audio solution. The first area I want to help churches assess is their acoustic treatment. This is easy. Go in the middle of your worship center, clap your hands, and then count how long you hear the echo or reverberation of your hands clapping together. If it's longer than 1 second, you're gonna have some mixing issues because there's so much energy bouncing around the room. But if your room is treated properly, you're gonna clap, maybe there's a little bit of an echo, but it's very clean and clear, and that's gonna give you full control of the sound with your PA system. So always check out the acoustic treatment in the room, and then also check out your PA system to make sure your amplifiers and your speakers are dialed in the way they should be. A lot of churches, again, have sufficient PA systems, but they weren't actually dialed in the proper way. So they're too loud, they're too quiet, they're too harsh, they might be pointed in the wrong direction. So this is the foundation of audio. Think about the acoustic treatment in the room and your existing PA. Step number 2, implement digital mixing technology. Digital mixers have come such a long way in the past 10 to 12 years. What used to cost multiple tens of thousands of dollars with old analog gear now only costs around $2,000 in one simple mixing console, thanks to digital technology. It's the same type of thing we've experienced with how advanced our smartphones have become. The same thing applies to audio mixing technology. And if your church is not utilizing a digital mixer with a digital stage box with in-ear mixing technology, you're missing out, and you could sound 10 times better than you currently do if you're still working on an old analog system. And as I already mentioned, the best part is you can make this upgrade for about less than $5,000. And then the other major solution to audio problems is having a competent team. So many churches will just find whoever's willing to throw behind a mixing console and not ever consider, is that person trained? Do we need to provide them with the resources to learn how to actually utilize this tool? You have to invest into the knowledge of your team members, especially those who are just volunteers for your church. Maybe they have another trade or profession they're really good at, which they get a ton of training for. Then you throw them into another trade, which is mix engineering, and then they have no training or support to know even the fundamental basics of sound. And as soon as they learn those things, which they can in a very short amount of time, it's going to definitely take your mix to the next level. Step number 2 to fixing amateur worship production is implementing the right visuals. When I say visuals, I mean anything that engages our sense of sight in worship. And today in the 2020s, the main tools we are using to establish that visual look for our worship experience and the way we engage the visual senses of our congregation is through lighting and through display technology. Here are some of the common visual pitfalls I see in a lot of churches. They're loading lyrics and sermon slides into PowerPoint every week. So they're using subpar presentation software. And then there's inadequate lighting design. The people on stage have insufficient lighting, so they're probably just hard to see in person or online. And if your lighting is poor, it's gonna be so hard for your live stream to look good. And then if you don't have the right visual tools in place, that's gonna put limits on your worship team's creativity and their ability to engage your congregation's sense of sight. We talked about how important it is to be able to engage people's sense of hearing and the sound. It's also important to engage what they actually see during worship. The pitfalls are people are not seeing the message as clearly as they should. God gave us ears and he gave us eyes to be able to engage with his truths and the truths of the gospel. And then commonly your church will probably look and feel outdated and irrelevant. So if you care about reaching younger generations, I'm speaking from the standpoint of a millennial, and I have some Gen Z friends, and we just care about design and aesthetic and the look and feel. And it doesn't have to be over the top. You're not putting on a rock concert, but our generation has to at least get a sense that you care about aesthetic. So let's talk about some simple visual solutions. First step, implement powerful yet user-friendly presentation and lighting software. There are so many amazing tools out there designed specifically for church displays and presentation because it's pretty demanding, right? You got to show lyrics for songs and you want to have some nice backgrounds for those songs, and you got to play announcement videos or sermon bumper videos, and then you as a lead pastor have to prep your sermon slides for the presentation software, and you want the ability to make changes 2 minutes before the service starts, or you just want that flexibility, and it's very, very limiting when you're using tools like PowerPoint. PowerPoint is for a corporate office type situation where you're creating those kind of corporate-y proposals and stuff. It is not created for a local church environment. ProPresenter and Proclaim are two of our favorite applications for presentation software for the local church, and we're always helping local churches implement those programs. The next solution is to simply aim and adjust the stage lights you already have. This is the common theme I keep coming back to, is so many churches already have enough gear already. Granted, there's some who probably need to upgrade some things or add some gear, but the first step is to utilize what you already have in place. And just a few weeks ago, I was at a church in Florida and I was assessing their lighting design, and they weren't happy with how things were looking online. And I was looking at their lights and I'm like, yep, you've got all the right fixtures. They're just not pointed in the right direction. You've got a bunch of light washing onto the back wall, so everything looks flat and it just kind of looks online. That's an easy fix. You just get a big ladder or a lift or whatever you need to get up there and just point the lights. Why were they pointed in the wrong direction in the first place? I don't know. Installers, integration companies don't always know what's best specifically for a worship ministry environment. But fortunately, if the lights are up there, you can still adjust them easily. And then again, you need a competent team who's gonna take the time every week to prep your presentations, to make sure they look great, they're looking relevant, they're gonna be appropriate for worship, they're not gonna be a distraction, but they're gonna support the gospel message. And then you want team members to do the same thing with your lighting design as well, to support the energy of the songs that are being sung, to make sure when you're preaching as a pastor, you have enough light, as from a key light and a hair light, and maybe some color in the background. So it just looks and sounds great. And when people are consuming that content in person or online, they're not distracted by poor production quality. Step number 3, automation. Automation is when you have computers do repetitive, redundant tasks that you don't need a human being to keep doing all the time, because robots, computers are a lot better at being consistent than we are at redundant and repetitive tasks. But in worship, it's very easy for us to miss a lyric cue or a lighting cue, or maybe someone forgets to turn on the live stream right before the service. So automation pitfalls, a lot of churches just aren't using enough of it. And as I already mentioned, there's missed lyric and lighting cues or any other production cues that have to happen during the service. Humans are fallible, sinful human beings. We forget things and it just doesn't happen. And when you're not using automation, you have a lot of repetitive and mundane tasks that waste time and manpower. So here are the automation solutions. The first common one we help a lot of clients with is MIDI networking, utilizing the power of MIDI. There's all sorts of apps out there or pieces of software that run, let's say, a click in backing tracks for your worship band. That same software, keeping the worship band on time, can also send lyric cues to your presentation software to make sure the lyrics are showing up on time every single time. Then we have macros. Macros are basically when you combine a lot of small little actions that need to happen simultaneously into one command. So ProPresenter has macros for your presentation software. Video switchers also have the option to implement macros in them. All these devices we're using, whether they're digital mixers, video switchers, obviously our computers, they're all computers and they're software, and you can program things to happen automatically. And then there's automation with automatic scheduling. A lot of apps can just make certain things happen on an automatic schedule. And at churches, we're always doing things at the same time on Sunday morning, right? Because our worship services always repeat on a weekly basis. So my favorite thing to implement is a dedicated streaming encoder so that the live stream is going to fire on and send that feed to YouTube, to Facebook, to your church online platform, to your church website with your own embed URL code, whatever you want to use there, wherever you want to send it to. It can automate that process, so you're not relying on someone having to press the go live button just at the right time before the service. And then when the service is done, it's automatically going to stop the live stream. And just like everything else, you need a competent team to learn these systems and implement these automation systems at your church. Step number 4, broadcast. So this is the fun, exciting part. Everybody likes to jump straight to the live stream. Jake, help us fix our live stream. Well, here are the common pitfalls, and here's the most common one, is that a lot of churches ignore steps 1 through 3 that I just covered: audio, visuals, and automation. If you ignore those things, your live stream is going to look horrible no matter what you do. If you ignore how you're capturing and processing audio in the room, you're definitely gonna have a poor live stream mix. And then if your lighting isn't right, the video is gonna look dark, grainy, and amateur. And of course, there's some other broadcast specific tools we can implement, but a lot of these things have to be captured and processed properly at the source. So that's why I put these things in order. for audio, visuals, automation. Now we can focus on optimizing the live stream. And then another common thing I see is live streams get taken down, or maybe it crashes because churches are just relying on one social platform, or maybe they have an unreliable encoding solution where that's the process of compressing that video and sending it online. There's better ways to do that and more reliable ways to do that than others. So let's talk about broadcast solutions. Assuming you've already worked on steps 1, 2, and 3 of this training video, fixing your audio, visuals, and automation, the next thing that's specific to your live stream setup that you can fix is just buy the right cameras. A lot of churches out there are buying the wrong cameras. They're investing $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 into a camera that's giving them subpar results. And that's because they're not looking for the right specs in a camera. All you need to know when you're buying a camera is, number one, does it have an APS-C size sensor or larger, micro four thirds, super 35, or full frame? That's gonna solve a lot of the problems you have with your image being dark and grainy. The next thing you need to focus on for cameras is the right lenses. You wanna make sure you have lenses that can let in sufficient light to your camera body, and lenses that are gonna help your image look sharp, and lenses that have the right focal length depending on what distance the camera is from your stage. The next solution for your broadcast to make it sound better is to have a dedicated audio mix. Can you get a good live stream mix from your primary mixing console in your worship center? Yes, you can. It's definitely gonna get you to probably, I'd say, a 7 or 8 out of 10 mix. But if you wanna go those last few notches up in quality to make it sound almost album or radio ready, you're gonna want a dedicated mixing solution, because the people in the room are hearing the sound come out of the speakers and bounce around the room, and that's how whoever's mixing in the room, that's how they're mixing, is according to those natural reflections happening in that space. But someone online has their phone or headphones or laptop speakers, which are often less forgiving because they're hearing just the dry sound go straight to their ears. And that's where it's handy having a dedicated mixing solution to add in the additional effects like auto-tune and better reverbs and delays. And also you want to add in some crowd mics too, so people actually feel like they're in the room with you. And then I always recommend getting a dedicated encoder for your live stream. We talked about how encoders can automate your live stream so it starts and stops at the right time. Also, encoders are better at just maintaining the quality of the video and audio that you're capturing. A lot of churches are putting $10,000 or $20,000 into a camera system, and they're getting an awesome dedicated mixing setup, but then they use something like OBS, which is a free live streaming software, which does horrible things to the quality of your live stream. You gotta get a dedicated encoder that's going to compress the video and audio in such a way that it's small enough to get it online and get it online in a reliable manner, but it's not going to crush all the quality down too much. A dedicated encoder fixes that problem. And then finally, you need a competent team to know how to cut video, to mix audio, and then also make sure that your multi-streaming services are working properly. Step number 5 is the team, developing and growing your worship tech team. Here are some common pitfalls. No one has training on the team. That's why the mix sounds horrible. Presentation and lighting looks horrible, or it's not happening at the right time. The live stream looks horrible. Most of it has more to do with competency, knowledge, and training than it does the actual gear that your church has. And then there's a lot of teams who have a lack of members. There's just not enough manpower to fill those roles every single Sunday, especially qualified manpower. And then people are unmotivated, they're unreliable, they're not showing up to do the work. And then there's no one to take this off your plate. So as a lead pastor, executive pastor, you're the one having to stress out about worship production all the time when you do have much more important roles to take care of at your church. Let's talk about the team solutions. First, identify the motivated members or maybe even a staff member who want to serve in worship tech. I don't care what church you're at, there's people who are gonna be passionate about your church's mission, and you just gotta take time to pour into them and help them see the vision for how important worship production is to getting this message to the congregation, whether they're in person or online. Once you identify this motivated person, make sure you provide them with adequate training and coaching. So many church leaders will find a bunch of great volunteers who have really willing hearts and souls, and they'll be like, hey, mix for us. And then that's what they leave them with, is just mix for us, like a pat on the back, go, good luck. Good luck figuring out how to use this thing that most people spend years mastering, right? So we need to provide them with adequate training and coaching. If you're not, then you are setting your volunteer members up to fail, and you cannot blame them when they get unmotivated or discouraged and they just go off and do something else, or maybe go to another church that will pour into their development. Once you have motivated team members, once you have the right training and coaching with your team members, you can implement the right tools to optimize steps 1 through 4 that I talked about in this video. You'll be able to implement proven standard operating procedures for operating and maintaining your worship tech system. And here's the hard truth about worship technology. You can't just build it once and then forget it forever. Like everything else in the world, there's always going to be entropy. Things need to be maintained. Sometimes there's going to have to be some troubleshooting, but none of that is a problem when you or your team members have a thorough understanding of how these systems work. And instead of having train wrecks that you have to troubleshoot every Sunday, it's going to be very minor little things that you continue to improve or enhance, or maybe a little glitch comes up once in a while, but people are not freaking out. People aren't getting discouraged because they understand what is going on and what went wrong, and then they can make sure it never happens again. Once you have the motivated team members, the right training in place, you've implemented the right tools, people are gonna have a blast, because I know as someone who geeks out about this stuff, it is so fun. I get excited to serve at churches that have the right tools and competency in place. It is an honor to serve on those teams, and those are the teams that multiply through recruitment and in-house training. So maybe you're thinking to yourself, but where do I find the training and coaching to implement all of this? Do I just tell people to go search YouTube videos? Churchfront's got a ton of YouTube videos. Go check them out, or go Google it, or go look on Instagram or TikTok or whatever the kids are watching these days or learning from. No, do not waste time going to all those different platforms. Yes, there's a ton of great content out there you can learn from, but none of it is packaged in a way that's gonna save you a ton of time, headache, and money implementing the best worship tech systems at your church. That's why my team and I created Worship Ministry School. It's a 6-month coaching and e-learning program for worship leaders, tech directors, and pastors. It's a done-with-you education and consulting service designed to help you reach your worship ministry goals as quickly as possible. Imagine if you had the clarity, guidance, and support to implement everything I talked about in steps 1 through 5 in this training video, and you'd be getting that clarity, guidance, and support from myself and my team. Well, that's what this consulting service is all about. You get 6 months of unlimited coaching access to my team. You can hop on a Zoom call with a real person who can take a look at your specific ministry. We can help you take inventory of all of the gear and software your church already has, and that's where we can save you a ton of money and help you understand you can make the most of your existing infrastructure rather than spending thousands of dollars on new gear. But if you do need to make upgrades, we can also give you that guidance and clarity as well. So we can help you build the right systems and implement the right tools to achieve a professional level of production for your worship ministry. And then we provide all of the online courses that you can hand over to your volunteers or your staff members who need to learn these systems. We have an online course library that has over 24 courses, a ton of them focused specifically on worship tech. We also cover other worship ministry related topics as well. Your team gets access to all of them. Everybody can log in with their own account, so you can delegate who needs to focus on which particular part of your system. And then whenever you are stuck, if you have a question, you just hop on a coaching call with our team members. We also have in-person consulting services available where we can show up with boots on the ground and help you assess and fix these issues and train your team members even quicker. But it all starts with scheduling a free strategy session. Click the link below this video to first fill out the application form, and then the second step is going to be booking a call on our enrollment coach's calendar. Please fill out that form thoroughly. We get a ton of applications. If people don't put time into letting us know about their situation in their church, the application has to get denied. Once you fill out the application form, you'll be redirected to a booking page where you can select a convenient time in the next day or two to hop on a calendar with one of our enrollment coaches. Since every single church is unique and you have unique goals and a unique situation, we like to hop on the phone so we can dive into the weeds and we can really get a full understanding of what it is is you're trying to accomplish, and we want to make sure that our program is the right fit. Chances are it is going to be a good fit because we've helped over 15,000 churches around the globe through our online courses and our Worship Accelerator program. And then check out the real stories from real worship leaders we have on our website. I'll put the link down below for reviews, but also go to worshipministryschool.com/reviews. And you can hear stories from worship pastors, tech directors, and lead pastors at churches who we've helped. So you know what to do now. Schedule a free strategy session today. Complete the application form, take your time filling out that form, and then pick a convenient time on our coach's calendar. We look forward to connecting with you soon.